What's up, guys? Today I'm going to show you one of my favorite tricks for spray cans. So most of us love metallic paints and pearl paints and stuff like that, something with a little sparkle in it, but they can be hard to find, and sometimes you're not going to be able to get them in the color that you're looking for. Luckily, I have a trick. So what I'm going to show you today is basically how to take a non-metallic or non-pearlescent paint in hopefully the color that you're actually looking for and turn it into a metallic or pearlescent paint using only spray cans. So this doesn't involve actually mixing a pearl into any of your colors or any of those cool tricks that you can easily do with a gun. This is going to be solely with spray cans. So as usual, I'm going to start by quickly explaining to you how and why this works, and then I'll get into a demonstration. As we've talked about many times before, there are a couple of different ways that paint adheres to things. One is mechanically and the other is chemically. And with any solvent-based paint, that chemical adhesion is important. So the way that we get that chemical adhesion is by putting on the paint reasonably wet. Shouldn't really say wet, but you got to put it on wet enough that it has some solvents in it when it hits the surface, and then those solvents evaporate, and that's kind of what helps the paint stick. Now, if you just dust your paint on super lightly, it's not going to stick. And what we're going to do to achieve this pearl finish, basically, with a paint that isn't actually pearl, is we're going to take a metallic, and it's going to depend on what color a little bit, but we're going to take a metallic and dust it on. So typically that wouldn't work. It wouldn't stick on there. And there are a couple ways to work around this. I'm going to show you the easiest one and then quickly explain to you the other way, which is also easy. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the color that I'm looking for. The first example that I'm going to give you is with blue. I have Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch Brilliant Blue. Sorry, that is, yeah, Brilliant Blue. And this is not a color that's available in metallic. If you want Rust-Oleum's pearlescent version of this, it's cobalt blue, and it's considerably darker. So in order to make this a pearlescent paint, what I'm going to do, and there are two different ways that I could do this. More than two. There are a few different ways I could do this. What I'm going to do is spray this on reasonably wet, and then while it's still wet, I'm going to gently dust in some pearl. The metallic or pearlescent color that I'm going to be using for this is silver. You could also use the blue, the cobalt blue, for this, but really silver works to give pretty much anything a pearl finish. So take a look at that can. That's your kind of magic touch in this case. This stuff, I could use this to turn black into a pearlescent color. I've used it on white. With black, I just use the pearl black, but I've used it on white, I've used it on blue, a whole bunch of different stuff. This, there isn't really a color to it. It's mostly just the metallic. So if you dust it on, you can use it on pretty much any color. Before I do that, I'm just going to quickly explain my second example. So the second one is going to be orange. This is Rust-Oleum's Equipment Orange. And I could, of course, turn this metallic with the silver as well. But I'm going to do something a little different for this, just to show you that you've got options, and I'm going to give it a copper metallic look. So the same concept applies here. I'm going to, instead of using the sparkly metallic, if you will, I'm going to use the reflective finish and dust it on super lightly while the orange is still wet, and that's the Rust-Oleum Copper Reflective. So the reason that this works is when you put on that first color, you have to toss on the pearl very, very quickly while the other color is still wet. And that's going to settle into the finish while the solvents are evaporating out, and everything is going to stick properly. So let's get to it. I'm just going to spray a couple pieces of metal here for you to show you. So let's start with the blue. Nice even coat of the blue and just a very light dust of the metallic. Now I do that from far away. I don't actually paint it on there. I'm just giving it a little bit. Now let's do the orange one. I already shook all of these up beforehand. Nozzles are a little dirty though. People haven't been taking care of these. There we go. when those dry, I'll show you. So while those are drying, I'm just going to cover a couple other quick things. First of all, if you're going to be doing more than one coat, for example, that orange is a fairly thin color, so typically I would do 2 coats with it. There's no point in putting the pearl into the first coat, just do it on the last one. And second, there is another way to do this, like I mentioned earlier, and what that would be is you just paint on your color the normal way, and then you do this with your clear. So I don't think you should be doing this with your final coat of clear, but typically people use more than one. And what I would do in that case, if I wanted to do things that way, or say I wanted to add a pearl in after the fact to something that's already been painted, I would put on my first coat of clear and do this, take the silver and dust a little bit into that first coat of clear while it's still wet. Then I'd wait my 10 minutes, put my second coat over that, wait 10 minutes, put my third coat over top of that, and that will seal all of that pearlescence in there, all of that metallic flake crap or whatever it is, and give you the finish you're looking for. Alright, well these haven't really dried yet, but I'm feeling rather impatient today, so I'm just going to show them to you. So here, the trouble is going to be getting the camera to focus in close enough on this, so let me see what I can do for you here. I get my hand there, focus in. Alright, so there we go. If you look at that blue, it's got some sparkle in it. It's going to be a little bit tough to see in here because it's not very well lit in this room, and I've got those crappy fluorescent lights that ruin everything when it comes to paint jobs. But you should be able to see some metallic in there. So that looks pretty awesome. That is a color with the pearl in it that you would not be able to get straight out of a spray can. Now the orange, I went just a little heavier with the copper than I intended to, but you'll still get the idea hopefully. You could do this with the silver as well, but it looks pretty cool with that copper finish in there. Alright, so there we go. Normally I would say I hope this was helpful, but I think this is helpful. So that's one of my best spray can tricks. I hope that serves you well if you're trying to do any kind of pearlescent paint job where the color itself isn't available, or if you want to mess with the color a little bit. Whatever it happens to be, sometimes it's fun to throw down a blue and then go over it with a red pearl just to see what you get. So feel free to experiment with that a little bit. That'll give you purple, by the way. So that's about it for today. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, or if you feel like it, or anything, any reason you can think of. And thanks for watching. See you next time.